My friend! Tell you what, we're gonna talk a little bit right now about scales and modes. I'm gonna play a little bit on the baritone ukulele just to talk about chord structure, and then I'm gonna jump over to the guitar. It's essentially the same thing. The baritone just doesn't have the 5 and 6 strings. It has the top E that a guitar would for the first string, the B, the G, and the D. So the concept here is I like to play finger exercises when I start anything. The concept is if you're playing with a pick, we all try it with a downstroke first. You could also do that without a pick just to get the groove of the rhythm. And then the idea is when you do an eighth note, which is 2 quarter notes, eighth note, quarter, 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 quarter. So in the space of 4 quarter notes, if you could put a down and an upbeat, you get 8 notes. Thusly, those eighth notes start rocking. The concept that I like to push here is if we can play 1 note, 2 note, 3 note, 4 note, we're basically stretching our first finger, second finger, third finger, and getting it associated with all the different frets. Therefore, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This interval is called a minor second. All of music is kind of measured in that interval, and then we combine those into what are other intervals. So 1 minor second plus another minor second equals a major second. Another minor second added on that is a minor third. See where we're going? Major third, perfect fourth. We've got an augmented fourth, perfect fifth, augmented fifth. We've got our 6th, our 7th, and then we've got our root. So if we go up those 12 notes, we get ourselves to the point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We get ourselves to the point where we see it as having 3 different types of quadrants that repeat themselves chromatically. Chromatic, all the notes in the scale. Diatonic, all 7 notes. And the reason being, when we have 7 notes, all the notes in the first note, the root of the chord, and then all the notes in the 6th of the chord, the relative minor, have the same notes. So that's a great place for us to jump onto the guitar and start talking about that. If you've got a guitar, baritone, ukulele, these things are the same. I just don't want to go through the mechanism having to explain this with different chords. So if you're a beginner at this and you want to go grab your chord book, feel free. I do this all the time. I have multiple chord books. The ones that I generally go for them are the Hal Leonard. There are a couple in there that are not right, like you will notice over a period of time. However, stick to this channel or other channels that explain chords in their theory with being triads, and we will be able to discover knowing what notes are in what key signatures aren't that hard, okay? So for here, with the guitar, if I was to play a C major and then play a C major going up and keep doing a shape anywhere with this, it sometimes sounds good and it sometimes doesn't. The concept here is the shapes themselves are movable. So what I teach is rather than just our fingers getting accustomed to these minor seconds, which eventually turn into something other than just half steps, we put them through mechanisms where you see a half step and a whole step working together. Now, the first one we're gonna do today is called a major scale. I know if you've been playing for a while, you know what a major scale is. So we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No matter what key we're in, that's the spelling. So the concept is, in the key of D, there are 2 sharps. We know that as being a F sharp minor as the third, the minor third. And then we know that as being a C sharp diminished, as being the 7th, which is the lending or leading tone. So when we see that mediant, the one that generally causes major or minor inside of a triad, just so happens to be the chord inside of D major, which is one of those sharps, we notice that the F sharp to the C sharp is a perfect 5th. That's why we call it the circle of fifths. So in the key of C major, no sharps, no flats. Usually with my little ones, I go smack and I hit myself on the forehead and I say, how many sharps and flats in the key of C? They always laugh and say 0. When we say that, all those notes are natural. So we don't say C natural, D natural, E natural, F natural, G natural, A natural, B natural, C natural. We go through the process as just dropping that natural because it's a lot of words. Concept here is when you move 5 notes away from C, C, D, E, F, G, G now has 1 sharp. That first sharp happens to be F. So the concept here is when we see the F as being not a F natural, but an F sharp, all the notes you would associate with the G note will be that spelling. G to A is a whole step. A to B is a whole step. B to C is going to be a half step. If we see through the eyes of this right here, I don't have to start that G scale With that first finger, I can start it with the second finger and express G as being here at the 3rd fret, A being a whole step away because we're skipping a finger and a fret. Moving to the 2nd fret on the A string, the 5th string, we're gonna smack that as being the B note, and essentially that's where our half step or minor second is. So when we play our minor second exercises as warm-ups, it exercises both of our hands and our brain to think kind of automatically, just like tempo and rhythm should be. So the concept here is if you can play half steps with any different of your fingers over here on this hand, dare I say even the pinky, we can move through the process of seeing that these notes will eventually turn into whole steps. And then that feeling, when moving up, gives you a whole tone scale. So we'll talk about these modes and scales in depth on the next couple Mondays, so stay out time on Monday to hang out here for about 5 to 20 minutes. Ask questions, talk amongst the music community, and subscribe if you already haven't. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna play a C major. C, D, E, here's our half step for the F. Gonna go a whole step for the G, a whole step for the A. Now it might not seem like a whole step, but if I play that same A, I would play it here, and that most definitely is a whole step. Here's our A, here's our big old stretch. We're gonna go from A to B, A sharp or B flat, B, and then a half step, again from B to C, just like down here. Ta-da. So what we see is a C major, a D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and then our dreaded B diminished, which isn't too terribly bad. If you're funky on the B diminished, check it out. You can put your first finger on the 2nd fret of that B, play your D string at the 3rd, play your B string at the 3rd, and then wrap that pinky around. Just don't play the 6th string and don't play the 1st string. When you do that without those 2 outer strings, you get B diminished, and that resolves to C major, just as every 7th always is going to resolve to that 1 or the 8. So diatonically, all the notes that are in the 1, the root, and the 6 are the same. So when we're talking about C major, I want to talk about A minor. All the notes that are inside of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A are all the same notes that are in C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. When we do this concept, we're seeing a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That way, when we go through the process of seeing major, that's what we explain every other scale and mode from. Now, how do I use a major scale? Well, how do we use a major scale? Concept is here. Go to any song that you know, no matter how many chords are in it, listen for the chord. And when I say listen for the chord, that means that what makes a major? We already said it here. It's called the mediant. It is the 3rd. If you want to fill in the blanks of what the other names of the 7 notes are, they are the tonic or the root. The subtonic is right next to the root, and it draws a lot of attention because when you utilize that 2nd, it makes it feel like that note needs resolution, or it has a little awkward tension or sustain, and you want that 2 to resolve back to the 1 or even to the major 3rd. The 3rd is the median. It determines major and minor. So when you go above 8 and you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you go up to 9, that 9 is the 2. In the key of C, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a C9 chord would have all C major, and we put our finger down for that 9. There are add 9s which don't incorporate the 7th, but we'll get into that later. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Major scale. If we were to take that C major and then go to its relative 4th and 5th, which would be C, D, E, F major, and then 4, 5, G major, we can have a really cool groove. Let's try like bluegrass. If you're playing along at home, try 4/4, about 50 bits per minute. Don't try and go too crazy. What I'd like to do is use that 5 and that 6 string to alternate. C, downstroke, and then we're gonna play the G, downstroke, C, G. When we're doing this, when we go to the F major, it's gonna feel awkward because you're gonna be playing the whole bar chord, and I'll show you a little trick to do that as well. We can play something along the lines of going to the F major, we're gonna shoot for the F, throw our E major shape, because as I said before, all shapes are tangible, they're movable. It's called the cage system. Google it, you'll love it. When we play like an E major here with 2 different fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I call these teeter-totters. These engage our fingers to play the same chord with different fingering sets. Thusly, when you play it with this fingering set, you can move that shape up a half step and bar, B-A-R-R-E, for a bar chord. With that bar chord, you're gonna be able to express 1, 5, and then 1. You've got the high F, the C, which is its fifth, and then the low F. So bluegrass style, here we go. Feel me? Here comes our F. Back to that C. Now to the 5. G. This is called a 1-4-1-5 progression. You could add a little 8th note to the end of that. Down, up, down, 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 up, down. You don't have to do that. You can do all downstrokes. A little caveat that I do that a lot of people don't stumble upon is when you're strumming, sometimes you could add rhythm by not pressing down the notes for the chord, but simply lifting your fingers off and keeping them over the chord. It mutes all the notes at the same time and gives you that kind of attention of chord is being played, this has a duration, it decays, that would have been considered a whole note and plus. And then if I went, that would be considered a half note because it's half of the amount of time that we were using, but I used my fingers just coming off of it as a function. So when we're playing the C to the F, back to the C to the G, you can play it in any stanza or rhythm, 2-4, 4-4, dare I say 6-4, 5-4, uneven, irregular times if you like. If you don't know what those are, we'll talk about those too. But today, what we're gonna end on is whatever song you're gonna try this concept with for the Ionian mode, the major mode. You can also use the 6th mode called Aeolian. Now, since a major is a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, we get to the process where if we went to the C, D, E, F, G, A, and held that note and thought, keep playing the C major scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Well, those notes would be A to B, whole step, B to C, half step, C to D, whole step, D to E, whole step, E to F, half step, F to G, whole step, and then G to A, whole step, thusly giving you the spelling. Now, back it up, listen to what we just said. If a major scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when we continue playing the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da, 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 we would need 2 more notes to complete it out to the C major. However, the notes starting from A give us the intervals. Each one of these Mondays for the foreseeable future, until we get through a couple different types of these modes and how to use them, we will talk about what their scale position is, what the relative mode is to that, and then being able to see their mirror modes. What? Yes, mirror modes. Now, it just so happens that in our first Ionian's mirror mode is Ionian. So, today, when we go up the scale and we've got a whole step, we will notice that our whole step, half step movements just don't affect our instrument the same way as they do when we play like that minor. So when we have a scale going C major, you can play C major over the top of this. All those notes. Any note inside of that scale, major, Ionian. When we're playing over the top of that C major, we can also play our A minor. Pentatonic works fine because it's over the top of a C major. So the concept we're looking at here is if you can play a C major scale and you know that A minor has an A minor Aeolian modus, you can play both of those over the major. That thusly brings into consideration, what is the F? What is the F's relative minor? We'll leave that up to you to try and find out and figure out. However, when you're playing its relative minor, you can play it in one shape you might know as being just the natural D minor. You can move your finger down here to get this backwards triangle looking shape, which functions as a minor and as a major 7 chord, just depending on how you're hearing it and using it. And then the concept behind this is when you go up to your C major, again, same modus, same scales, different feeling, and then G major, well, the relative minor of G major is E minor. So all the notes inside E minor pentatonic also work over the top of G. Fun. So the concept here is work on major this week. Next week, we're going to jump back in with the second modus called Dorian.